Caregiving is one of the most meaningful yet most misunderstood roles that we take on as we age. If you're age 50, 60, or beyond, chances are you know people who are serving in that caregiving capacity. Maybe you are the caregiver. If so, or if you just want a better understanding of what a caregiver goes through, then you'll want to watch this next video. In this interview, my friend opens up about her real experiences as a caregiver. Let's hear what she has to say. Okay, so today I am visiting with Lisa Burt, a good friend of mine, and she lives here in the same 55 plus community that I live in. And for the last 2 or 3 years, I believe, I've admiringly watched her as she takes care of her husband, Jim, Mr. B, as she calls him, who has Alzheimer's. And so we are all getting older, and especially living in a 55 plus community, we're really aware of that aging process and how one day we might be the person that is going to need a caregiver. Or we may be on the flip side of it, and like Lisa, be the person that needs to give that loving care to somebody that we dearly love. And so I've asked Lisa to come in today and ask her to share with us a little bit about the role of being a caregiver. And I appreciate you doing that, Lisa, because I know it's a really tough role. I want you to share as little or as much as you feel comfortable in doing so. So we went through a few questions that she agreed to answer for me. And so Lisa, I wanted to ask, what has been the hardest part of caregiving that people don't usually see, the behind the scenes role?
First of all, thank you for asking.
So glad you're here.
Yeah, thanks. I think if you were a fly on the wall in our house, you would see a whole lot more than what people just experience with passing by, maybe at church or at volleyball. Because a lot of people will tell me, Jim's doing really good. I'm like, if you were a fly on the wall at our house, from the moment he wakes up, it's the repeated questions. Where are we? What's going on? Who's on first? It could be really frustrating. So I've learned how to cope with that by writing answers down. And I'm like, after the 10th time he's asked me again, where are we? And I'll put the answer right in front of him. I says, look at your sheet.
And so he can read that.
Yeah, he sure can.
The sheet. That's good.
Yeah. He is doing well, but there's so much that people don't see. It's just the regular taking care of the home and driving and everything else that we would do together, that I do by myself, taking care of him.
The full workload is on you.
Yeah.
In other words. But I would think that it would be almost like taking care of a child who can't do the driving, who needs to be reminded what he needs to do. I knew a couple that she had dementia, and she would do the same type of thing. She would tell us the story about her father living in Seattle and being in the military, and then go into the story of how she worked, in her position, and people really relied on her. And 10 minutes later, it was the exact same words.
Exactly.
The same exact story, because she didn't remember. That same role just played over and over in her head. And she could be at our house maybe for an hour and tell us the same thing every 10 or 15 minutes, exact same story. I mean, she didn't even change a word. It'd be the same. So it's like something just continues.
Yeah, and that's called looping. There's a medical term for it, when they keep on asking the same questions over and over again. So this is a journey. Caregiving is a journey, and we're learning as we're going.
This is all good information. So if we need to be a caregiver, We need to know these things.
So part of the looping and the asking the questions over and over is some anxiousness within Jim. So actually, I've gotten some homeopathy that is called Bach remedies. And I'm like, you know what, Jim, it's time for your vitamin B's. And he takes them and I take a couple shots and it just takes that edge off. And I've seen that it works really well with him. It's just all essential flowers.
So is the looping, is that because they get anxious? And so there's something about that anxiousness that makes them just keep dwelling on that one thing?
I believe so. Every person that you meet with Alzheimer's, though, is going to be different. So with my mister, when he's doing the looping thing, then there's some anxiety going on. And it's throughout the day. When he wakes up, he doesn't know. At night, he doesn't know.
So does that vitamin D, is it just calming? Is that what happens? Is that the purpose of it?
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting.
It can get really frustrating because you can't have a regular one-on-one conversation. And so there's some loss of intimacy that way, because it's just all, he's back in the military. My mister's a Marine, and that's basically the time that he's at. So, if I'd ask him the question, all right, mister, if you didn't know how old you were, how old would you be? And he just looks straight at me and goes, 35. I'm like, we're working with that. I said, did you know you married an older woman? But, just off the bat, right when we wake up. And one morning, I'll just be transparent here. Jim's asking the same questions over and over. And I just got up and I was frustrated. I'm like, you know what? I would just like to have one day without Alzheimer's. And he looked at me and he says, you have Alzheimer's? I'm like, oh my Lord. Yeah.
And did it make you laugh or did it make you more frustrated?
Good question. I thought for a second and then I just smiled and walked away. But the other neat thing about Alzheimer's and caregiving is he's the one who forgets. So if I'm starting to get in a bad mood, I need to be the one to change my attitude because he's not going to even remember.
He's forgotten. It's already in the past and didn't know you were upset.
Exactly. And I go to the bathroom and I pray and I start over and I put one of those fake smiles on my face and, and just do it. Lisa Marie's maiden name before it was Bert was Frankowski.
Okay. And when did I marry her?
You married Lisa on July 4th, 2018. Look at me, honey. I'm Lisa Marie.
Oh. And you're my wife?
I am.
Great. That was a marriage, right?
Okay, so the next question was, what kind of support has made the biggest difference for you? Have you had some sort of outside support?
I think, first of all, I'd like to talk about the support within our community here at Country Roads. I enjoy playing volleyball. I enjoy playing pickleball. And Mr. and I are together all the time. He can't be left alone. The support that I get from you guys, from the people on the team, they'll see Jim getting up and they'll be like, Lise, they've at pickleball, I have my back to them and someone will just go, hey, Jim. And then that draws my attention. So it's like I got this army of people around me,
Everybody loves Jim.
Yeah. It's a real blessing. It really is.
Well, he's really a charm because Jim can carry on a conversation and he's quite the character. He really has a great sense of humor.
He does. He's maintained that and I'm really blessed about that. All right. So the other kind of support that I've recently just gotten is like right now, it's respite. And since Jim is a former Marine, but once a Marine, always a Marine, we have,
Simplify.
yeah, girl, we have the VA accessible, and they have respite care. Sometimes I don't realize how depleted I am until I had someone come in and I could be by myself. And I'm like, wow.
Need that little breath of fresh air.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have respite workers come in for 12 hours a week. And 12 hours a week might not sound like much, but every hour that I can get just to not hear questions, just being transparent here, just to breathe and to take care of myself, because I've been told over and over, those are some signs. Hey, take care, Lisa, take care of yourself first. So you're able, because if you're not able to take care of Jim, who is gonna? Right. So that's my motivation.
And that's a big thing. So often caregivers, you hear a lot of times that caregivers will pass away before the person who is needing care because they don't take care of themselves, and then they start getting ill. It's got to be not only physical but mental. So totally exhausting.
It is. It really is. So now having that support. Also, the VA provides a social worker for the caregiver. So once a week, I'm meeting with her on the phone for an hour. And I really didn't even realize how stressed I was until she started asking me the questions, and the tears come. And I'm like, oh, wow, I am really overwhelmed. So now that I have that respite, I can breathe a little bit more.
So is that a form of, do they do counseling for you then? Is that a form of counseling for you?
Right. The person from the VA that is my social worker, then yeah, it definitely is counseling. And I'm also going through, it's still through the VA, but a little offshoot is a 10-week course. It's like a Zoom meeting, and we're talking about hope in the midst of taking care of yourself and taking care of the other person too. Yeah.
And those tears, I mean, we all need those tears sometimes just to let that pressure off of us.
Process.
Okay, so thank you for sharing those things. So Lisa, what would you tell somebody else who is just now beginning their caregiving journey? As you shared with me, it's a blessing to you also, your role as a caregiver. So it's not all a bad situation.
I would say, if I was talking with someone and their loved one was just diagnosed with Alzheimer's, I would say enter into their reality. Now, I've been doing that this past year, and I'll tell you what the difference is. All right. So before, Mr. would go, I saw my brother this morning. I'm like, Jimmy's dead. Well, isn't he by mom and dad's? No, mom and dad are dead. It's not a good idea, right? You want to be honest, but it wasn't helping the situation. Anytime that would happen, and it happened a lot, it would just bring up his grief again and bring it up and bring it up. So I had to change my thinking so I can help him. Entering into Jim's reality means changing the way I'm thinking. So when he says, I saw my brother this morning, and instead of saying, no, you didn't, he's dead, I would go, how is he doing? What's happening? Tell me, give me some information. And then the narrative is in his court. And something we do many, many, many times a day is when Jim asks, where are we at? I'll go, we're in Yuma. And he'll say, and mom and dad? I say, mom and dad are in Sheridan. And you know what? She called yesterday, and when we talked with her on the phone, she said, no one got in the crud. Everyone's feeling really, and he's going, oh, good. And I says, and mom and dad are really happy because they have a whole freezer full of antelope and deer. And that just makes him laugh and knows that, okay, in his mind, they're taken care of and they're doing fine. So
That's really awesome.
Mhm.
I'm not a therapist, but I don't see where there's anything wrong with that because he's going to forget it tomorrow anyway.
Yeah.
Tomorrow could be a whole new adventure.
Mhm.
Mom and dad may be traveling to Europe for a
Mhm.
trip or going on a cruise.
Right.
And it's something that would make him happy.
Mhm. So basically, entering into their reality means I'm not going to be honest. I've had to work through that because we have a relationship that's based on honesty. And I thought, oh Lord, what am I doing? I'm not telling him the truth. What I'm doing is bringing down his level of anxiety. So I would say, agree with them, agree with your loved one, unless you or the loved one are in danger. Then I would not agree with them.
What in the world happened? Did I just disappear?
You're really present in the moment, and then that moment's gone.
Oh, that moment's gone.
I love you, Mr. B.
And I love you.
I'm Mrs. B.
Well, I'm pleased to meet you.
I'm pleased to meet you too, sir.
So you knew when you first met Jim and started dating him that he had early onset of Alzheimer's, but you fell in love with him anyway and decided you could be a caregiver.
Yeah, it was a big decision to make and a real different relationship. I couldn't imagine what some caregivers go through with seeing their husband or their loved one as they were and then changing into something else. When I met Jim, I knew something was going on and we got him diagnosed. And I had to take some time away from him and really search my soul and pray. Was I going to be the one to take care of him? And every day we weren't together, my heart hurt. And I just knew I was the one. So, with God's help, everything's possible. And that's a huge part of my support, is a good Lord. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that is a good point where you saw him, and I'm sure he has progressed from when you first met. And so you've seen that progression where my husband was in an auto accident and he was the outgoing, aggressive, you couldn't keep him down type of person, and was in an auto accident, ended up in a wheelchair. So it totally changed his life. He tried to still be as active as possible, but it was difficult for him. And so it is a total change of life, not just for yourself, but for the entire family. And so you have that whole adjustment in life to make. And I would assume that with Alzheimer's or dementia, it would be similar, but you at least knew what you were getting into. And that's really admirable, Lisa. I just really respect that, and that you loved him through it all, and you still love him. Lisa, I admire her. She comes to volleyball, and she's walking hand in hand with Jim. She's always watching after him, and like she says, everybody else kind of helps look after him, and he sits quietly and watches the games and carries on conversations that with anybody that comes over and sits and visits with him. My husband tries to have him come over and watch a movie once every month or two to give Lisa a little bit of a day off. And he loves Westerns. And so Sean says they could watch the same Western every month if they wanted. And Jim doesn't realize it's the same one, but they laugh through it and they have a good time. So Lisa, do you have any other information that you want to just share with any of those out there who are watching?
I would say be gentle with yourself. Nobody's perfect, and that's been a big learning curve for me.
It's okay to lose it now and then.
It is okay to lose it now and then. And you know, when people ask, "How are you doing?" let them know how you're doing. People want to help. People really want to help. So utilize the people that are around you. Makes them feel good to help out.
That's a good point, though, is that people do want to help. I shared that my husband was in a wheelchair, and when he was first in the hospital before he was released, I was having a real rough time because we had just opened a restaurant, and I had 4 young boys, ages 4 to 10. And so my day consisted of going to work at 5 in the morning and working the restaurant, closing it, going and picking up my sons and going up to the hospital. And I was overwhelmed, but I didn't know how to ask for help. And people would always offer, well, let me know if I can help somehow. And I'd always just, oh, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm fine. But one day, those angels of mercy showed up at my door because I came home and was, if I can get through this without even getting teary-eyed because it chokes me up every time. But I came home from work, and there were half a dozen guys in my yard, mowing the yard, cutting back the overgrown roses, doing all the yard work. And I saw a woman inside washing my windows and stuff at the picture window. And I sat in my car and cried. One of the gentlemen came over and opened the door, and he says, "We called your son, and he said it was okay." And I said, "It is, of course it is."
Sure.
You know, but people wanted to help, and they saw a need, and they just showed up. Because I didn't know how to say, yes, I need help. And so people do want to help. So if there's a way that you can say, yes, I could really use help with this or with that, they will jump in and help you. And I'm sure there's some of those angels of mercy out there that even if you don't ask for help, they just show up anyway. So Lisa, I want to thank you so much for sharing today. And
Bless
you've
you.
been a special friend. And again, I just admire how you're working with Jim. And so if you're a caregiver, comment below how you are working with taking care of yourself, or tips that might help other caregivers. Your words just might help somebody else. And I hope to see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.